I am doing very well. I am catching up on a lot of my reviews and hope I still have a stack of them I need to read, my review books. But I'm catching up on actually filming some reviews, so yay for me. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video, and it is yet another book review. And today we are going to be reviewing The Evaporation of Sofi Snow by Mary Weber. This is the first book in a duology. I don't know if it's called the Sofi Snow duology or what exactly duology it's called. Probably the Sofi Snow duology. I don't know. But anyway, this is the first book in a new duology by Mary Weber. Previously, Mary Weber wrote the Storm Siren trilogy, which many of you know I was not a huge fan of. I was sent this book for review from Thomas Nelson's Zondervan Fiction Guild, so I was happy to get it because I was still interested on what Mary Weber was coming out with, because I still really liked her writing as well as her story ideas. The concept that she has behind her stories, but not always did the content live up to what I was expecting. For The Evaporation of Sofi Snow, I still had a couple problems with it, and I rated it a 3.5-star rating, but I still actually really enjoyed the storyline. So it's basically set in like a futuristic our world after World War IV, so hopefully we don't get that far. But it is a dystopian set in a futuristic of our world. It is set where now everything is very much a corporation. Cameras follow you everywhere and upload your lives every day, and it follows Sofi Snow, who is an expert online gamer and who is part of this huge gaming show that is put on. It's very similar to the Hunger Games, where young people are pitted against each other in these very dangerous games, and it also very much has a districts kind of feeling to it, because there's these corporations that kind of battle against each other in this arena of games. So very similar to that, not quite though, because the kids have an option, I think. So we're following Sofi and her brother Shiloh, who are part of this gaming world. Shiloh is the live gamer in the games, and Sofi is the online gamer who does the coding and everything for Shiloh as he's playing these games. They're part of a huge tournament when a bomb sets off and destroys the gaming area, and then sets off a series of events that sends Sofi searching for her missing brother. And she is suspected he is taken by the Delanese, who are an alien life form that has come and started orbiting Earth and sharing technology with Earth. And she suspects that they might have something to do with the disappearance of her brother. This also follows the perspective of Miguel, who is an ambassador to the Delanese and who specializes in selling secrets, and a lot of blackmail and secrets are involved in his life, and he lives a very glamorous playboy type of life. So that's pretty much the gist of the story, or the synopsis of the story. I, again, was hesitant to pick up Mary Weber's book because I wasn't a huge fan of the content in the previous book. I found it, or the previous books she's written, I found them very dark, and some of the female characters overly sensual for what they needed to be and without a purpose. And the reason the content bothered me so much from these books, like normally if I would have read them from any other publishers, this wouldn't have bothered me, but the reason the content bothered me so much in these books is because they are published by Thomas Nelson HarperCollins Christian Publishing. And so you kind of have to think of Christian fiction as kind of an own voices, which is kind of a trend now in our reading and our books, is own voices becoming a very big thing that readers want. And if you do think of Christian fiction as an own voices type of writing, you still want the content and the presentation of Christian fiction to reflect the ideals and the beliefs and the faith of the Christian faith. So I didn't find that the content in her previous books did that, and I had problems with the way the content was presented in this book. Now, it wasn't overly graphic and overly sexualized in this book, but there was a lot of hints and sexual content, jokes and innuendos in this book. But really, had they been presented slightly different, I don't think I would have had a problem with it. It's just that they were made so flippant and a sense of humor in some cases, and they didn't have a backbone as to why the character was pursuing this lifestyle, or how her emotions and her life kind of built up to where she is in this place now in her life. And so that's where I had a problem with the content. Honestly, if it was slightly presented differently and we had a bit more of a emotional growth and emotional attachment to the main character, and the jokes and the innuendo was not there, I don't think I would have had a problem with some of the aspects of Sofi's life. And again, like, just that's just the idea of having Christian fiction as like kind of if you think about it in the way of an own voices, you still want the content to reflect the ideas and beliefs just like you would any other own voices. You still want proper representation of those ideologies for any own voices. So that's where my problem lies with the content of Mary Weber's books, is because I still want Christian fiction books that properly represent and give us an idea of things that match up our ideologies and our faith and just our morals and ethics and stuff that we believe as a Christian faith. Otherwise, though, like if you think about it, though, Mary Weber really did give us a good picture of not only a futuristic world, but what our world is like today. So what the futuristic world there looked like was a lot of people with like live shows and, you know, kind of like vloggers, live shows, and you have your social media superstars, and you have people following you everywhere, and like live show gamers, and it was very much like our social media YouTube-ish type of world is today. And so I found that really realistic, and just some of the aspects of certain lifestyles that came along with that, even though not a lot of it needed to be in there, but she did present it very realistically, even to what our world is like and what humankind is sometimes like in certain situations. So she did present it very, very well. For the rest of the storyline, she built a really cool world, and I think I enjoyed her world building in this one a lot more than the Storm Siren series, because she built it off of our modern world and kind of built a dystopian off of our modern world. So when she built it off of that, I could follow her world building a lot more. And even with the Delaney's, including like an alien world building, I followed her world building a lot more in this series than I did in her previous series in a fantasy different world than ours. So that was a lot harder to follow in her previous books, but I definitely followed her writing style, her plot, and her world building better in this book. The plot, again, at some points got a little complicated and a little hard to follow, but I really liked the plot twists that were involved and the kind of guessing as to what is really going on and why. And I really enjoyed that, because you don't have clean, smooth answers, and you don't know who to trust in the book, and you have characters you think you can trust and then characters you don't think you can trust, and like there's just a lot of like not really knowing who's going to do what, and I enjoyed that. So it definitely kept you guessing, and it wasn't always an adrenaline rushed book. There was a lot of thinking that was involved with it too, so that again was another really good plot line and a good driven plot in this book. The other thing that kind of falls flat for me, though, is the characters. I think she needs a bit more of the character development and a bit more development into a character's emotional state, and as well as relationship buildings. There was a very like damaged / toxic relationship in her. I wouldn't really call it toxic, but I don't understand her relationship developments, because it goes from, you know, two people not liking each other to two people accepting they should be together. Now, I know there's a history, that we just understand that there's a history between the male and the female lead. So we know that there's a background to it, but we don't get a lot of development of the relationship now. And it was just really quickly done. Like I didn't buy the relationship. I didn't buy that they need to be together. And I wasn't like, oh, I'm so upset that these people went through anything. Like I don't know. Her relationship just happened, and I'm just like, okay. So I really would like a bit more development in that. The other thing, so with the content, I'm going to mention with the character with this content, is there's a lot of insinuation that Sophie, the main character, has slept around, or people joke about her sleeping around, or that she's been with a couple of guys. And a part of that is she has a very difficult life, and she's filling voids, and she's kind of lashing out to authorities in her life and trying to become her own person against people who have mistreated her. So I understand, like I really do, like even though sometimes the content of that was not presented well and was presented as a joke or as very flippant, I still understand why a character would lash out. I just wanted more emotional attachment to Sophie, so I could understand why she's trying to fill in all of these voids and to lash out that way. So because we didn't have that emotional attachment, it just felt like this character sleeps around. Another thing with her female characters, I felt the same way with Nim in the Storm Siren trilogy, is that they're tough, They're out to save the world. They don't care what anyone thinks. They're going to fight every authority. They're just going to do their own thing. And they're going to be a strong female character. And they're strong, but not in character. Like, they don't have any character integrity. They're just, I'm a strong female character. I'm going to save my own world. And I don't mind female characters like that, but I just don't want some tough girl running around not thinking, not taking thoughts from other people, not accepting when she needs help, and not breaking, there's no breakdown of this character. She's just like, I'm a tough kick butt girl and I'm going to save the world. And you can't get into this character's world or mindset and be excited she's a tough kick butt girl. Like, there's no connection to her. You half the time you just get annoyed with her because you want her to stop and think about things and chill out for a moment. And that's how I felt both about Nim and about Sophie. So her female characters need a bit more attachment to them. I need something to make me care about these people. So with all of that, I did mention I liked the storyline. I liked where we were going. I liked the plot twist, the who's who do I believe, who do I trust. And you think you're going after one thing and then it becomes a different thing. And so I liked how, like, you set up for this one plot and then it actually becomes a bigger problem and you're introduced to this bigger problem, which we're going to get into the second book. So I'm actually very interested into the second book of this duology, and I'm looking forward to it because I want to know what happens to these characters, and I'm hoping for a bit more character growth because I didn't get that in the Storm Siren trilogy. So again, I really like the storyline. I like what Mary Weber's world developing and the story ideas and the story plots and concepts she comes up with. It's just sometimes the characters lack that drive I need to keep the story going, as well as some of the content is not what I think should be represented by a publisher that it is published by. Which I think might be the unpopular opinion, but that's just really where I'm standing with the content wise with this book, and that's my personal opinion. If you're okay with it, then if you're okay with the content and everything, that's totally cool, but that's just my personal opinion on how her content is presented in these books. So with the content, I do give it a moderate content reading. There is jokes, there's innuendos about sex, there's ideas that people are sleeping around, there's a use of God, like G-A-D, so it's either Gad or God. So it makes it sound like someone's saying, oh my God, but with like a really strong accent. So there's kind of use of a mild swearing, but trying to make it not like swearing, just like her fake swearing system she had in the Storm Siren. But instead she's trying to make it sound like people are saying, oh my God, without saying, oh my God. So I was kind of mildly annoyed by that because she used it a lot again. And, would have preferred she just either not use it or use it very littly. Like, I didn't mind the usage of it because she's not actually using the Lord's name or God's name, but it was just the overuse of it to make it seem like she was. So it's like, either use it very little, and I get it, and use other little mild stuff to replace actual swearing, or just don't use it at all. And just swear if you need to. I don't know. But yeah, so definitely moderate with the sexual innuendo, a little bit of the language because you do understand what they're saying or replacing. So just a heads up for that. And like I said, if it was like slightly presented with a different, I can't say different attitude, but like with a different idea and twist on the content, I don't think I would have had a big enough problem with it. It's just when sex and stuff and exploitation and just people flippantly sleeping around becomes a joke and a center of a joke and just like in there to fill a page, I find it unnecessary and I don't think it needs to be in there. And like I said, with the idea of the main character sleeping around, if we would have delved more into her emotions and her life and just had more of an emotional connection to her, I would have understand why she feels she needs to do that. Because it is in a way realistic. Like, you reach to unhealthy situations to fill or to lash out or to get attention or to seek fulfillment where you feel like you're lacking. Like, it happens. It's realistic. So I understood that. I just wish we would have had more of a connection to the character to understand that. So like I said, overall, I gave it a 3.5 star rating. I will be reading the second book. I did enjoy the build up to the next book. I did enjoy the world building and the storyline a lot better. And I do like her science fiction a lot more than her fantasy. I did find the content in this slightly milder than the other content in her other series. There is a trigger warning, though, that I should bring up for human trafficking. There is no sexual human trafficking, but there is the idea of human trafficking, which Meriwether did mention in the discussion questions in here. I hope you guys don't consider this a spoiler, but there is like this underlying theme of human trafficking and the black market idea of human trafficking. So there's this idea underlining, which I hope you guys don't consider a spoiler, but that is kind of a trigger warning for you guys there for content wise. Okay, so that's my review. I hope that made sense. I know some points got a little more controversial or just more serious in some places. Like I said, it is fiction. We don't have to draw out huge theological views from Christian fiction, but it's just, it needs to be represented well. Just like any other own voices or any other representation needs to hopefully be done and represented well. So if you guys have any questions about anything, any about the content or any of the trigger warnings I gave, or just any questions at all about what I thought about the book in more detail, you can leave those questions down below. I will love to talk about them without giving any spoilers away. But like I said, always like chatting about you guys, and we'll always try to answer your questions about any content or anything you have concerns about for any books. So that is it for me today, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!